You are now experiencing the digital life with Kevin Lockett.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Digital Life. Spring is upon us, and what better way to kick off season 2 of the Digital Life than to talk baseball and digital media. Today's guest is Babby, owner of the minor league baseball team, the Akron Rubberducks, formerly known as the Akron Arrows. Now Ken is an interesting guy because he was also one of the main digital leaders of the Washington Post. So we not only talked about minor league baseball and technology, but we also talked about the future of journalism, which was really, really insightful. I had a great time talking to Ken. I hope you enjoy it as well. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Babby, owner of the Akron Rubberducks. Okay, we're talking to Babby from the Akron Rubberducks. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
It's hard for me because I'm so used to saying Akron Arrows.
We're still very proud of our Arrows history. We don't forget we won 4 championships as the Akron Arrows over the last 17 years. So it's certainly a new chapter, and we're proud of our new name, but honor our past as well.
Yeah. One of the things I like when I looked at the logo for the Rubberducks is that you have tire tracks under rubber, and I never noticed that before. So it's a great nod to Akron's past.
Yeah, I think that there were really 2 goals with the identity change. The first was obviously to come up with a fun brand that represented the experience that we're building here at the ballpark, and plays history and homage to the history of this great community and the fact that the Akron area really still is the rubber city capital of the world, and Rubberducks did that. Goodyear's headquarters is just down the road from us, and brand new multi-million-dollar headquarters, and Bridgestone Firestone has their tech center just down South Main Street where the ballpark is here in Akron. So it's an exciting mix, and we're excited for the season.
Yeah, before we get to the digital side of things, what is the process about inquiring how to buy a minor league team? Because it's not like you can open up the newspaper and say, hey, minor league team for sale. So how was that process when you decided that you wanted to get involved with owning a team?
Yeah, no, great question. You're right. Like a lot of businesses, sports teams don't have for sale signs hanging on stadiums saying, available, call to inquire, right?
Right.
I was very fortunate. I started looking at clubs predominantly on the East Coast in the Midwest late in 2011, beginning 2012. Had found out about the opportunity here in Akron through the president of the Eastern League, a wonderful guy by the name of Joe McCaffern, and came out here late summer 2012, really for a weekend. Joe said, you got to go see what's happening out in Akron. I hopped in my car, came out here for what was supposed to be a couple nights, ended up staying for about 4 or 5 days, and left with a really strong opinion in the community, the civic leadership, the fan base, obviously, and what was happening here in Akron. Went back to D.C. where I was living at the time, where I'm from, kind of compiled my notes, called Joe and said, hey, I liked it so much, I'm going to go back out there a second weekend. The team was home 2 weekends in a row, came back, and pretty sure by the time I left Akron the second time that I wanted to buy the club.
Yeah, you spent your whole life in that Maryland, D.C. area. I mean, because now you're full-time here in Akron now. So what was that transition like for you?
Well, first of all, when you leave a big city like Washington, D.C., which is where I live and grew up right outside of Maryland, it's really refreshing coming to a community like Akron. I mean, I knew from my limited time out here that the people were fun, receptive, hardworking, very family-oriented, and in a way that's pretty selfish for what we're trying to do here, love sports, right? So it was an easy transition. I used to commute 2 hours to work every day down a very congested series of highways in the D.C. area to get to work at the Washington Post, where I spent, first 13 years of my career. And, coming into a community like this, doing what we're doing, investing in the community, obviously investing in downtown, Akron was really open-minded and reached out with open arms to welcome me and what we're doing. And it's hard to believe it's been almost 15 months since I moved here. It's really flown by.
Right. Now, you grew up around sports, but when you went to the Washington Post as an intern, you went into IT. So what made you decide that you want to get into more of the digital side of things as a career and maybe going directly into sports?
I came out of college and I wasn't sure exactly my path to get into sports. I remember, saying to friends and, boy, I really want to get in sports. As you sort of noted, I came from a family that was very dominated by sports. It was a culture where everything we did sort of revolved around either driving to games or practices. My dad was general counsel for the Baltimore Orioles for many years, and prior to that, the Washington Redskins, but spent the majority of his career in the NBA representing players for about 20 years as a player agent in the NBA, and then most recently, he for the last 3 years has been the president of basketball operations out with the Phoenix Suns in the NBA. So, I was extremely lucky, really fortunate to grow up in a household where sports really was everything that we did. And I knew I wanted to work in sports for sure, but I received some great advice from a colleague of my father's, years ago that was, dead on in advice, although it was the worst thing I wanted to hear at the time. And that's that, I should go out and develop a skill set outside of sports in some other area, similar to the way my dad had in law. Some people choose finance. For me, technology was what I'd gone out and got my degree in, and I knew I could add some value to a big media company. So, I took a job at the Post. First job was working night shift, 6 p.m. till 3:30 in the morning. I figured, I'd do that for a year or two and then make my way to go get a job at a team. And, my career at the Post, I was fortunate enough that they moved me along quickly there, and I was in a situation where I was running our digital business for the last 4 or 5 years that I was there, and really, migrating a great traditional print business and injecting it with digital technology and building it for the future. So it was a great ride for me there, and it just took me a little longer to get into sports, but I'm fortunate the way it worked out, and, I'm fortunate to be in a position that, in 2012 I was in a place where I was ready to take the step.
So you gained a whole lot of experience with the Washington Post, being a digital revenue officer. So what type of things did you gain from your Washington Post experience on the digital side that you can transfer over to the Akron Rubberducks?
Yeah, it's a great question, and amazingly, and you'll appreciate this in the journalism business, there are a lot of similarities between what we do. First and foremost, what I did at the Post was develop great customer experiences. Now, certainly different from what we do here, selling beer and hot dogs and doing promotions on the field in minor league baseball, but doing the right thing for customers, listening to their ideas, hearing what it was that customers really believed in terms of choosing the right things to build our products. You have to remember the Post was a business model that really hadn't adapted or changed for much of its 130 years in business, and so ink on paper was the way, right, that we all received news and grew up receiving news, and the world was changing, certainly, in the late 90s and in the earlier part of the last couple of decades. So, my role was really to develop great news experiences for customers and digital devices, whether it be an iPhone or later an iPad or, a traditional web browser with WashingtonPost.com. So in that way, we did that by talking to our customers and formed great teams of working with great creative people about how to build those kinds of products for customers. The other thing that's interesting about minor league baseball and the world I came from, the newspaper industry, there's some unique similarities around the sort of compartments of our business and the way it worked in journalism. For example, in minor league baseball, we have little to no involvement to what goes on the field from a player baseball standpoint, baseball operations standpoint. Of course, those decisions are really made by the Cleveland Indians, in our case, our major league affiliate. In the newspaper industry, there's sort of a literal church and state relationship between the business side and the newsroom. So although I was on the business side and, constructing these experiences, I didn't, just wander down to the 5th floor of the Washington Post newsroom and, start telling them how to write their news stories. Nor, by the way, would you want me doing that. That wasn't my skill set. So that aspect of it is very similar. Newspapers and digital media companies now, right, are measured by their audience and how many people come out. That's very similar in sports. We're measured by our attendance and how many people come out to support Akron Rubberducks games over our 71-game season. And I think finally the part that probably ties together the most is the sponsorship and advertising piece, right? The revenue model for a minor league baseball team is made up predominantly of sponsorship ticket sales and concessions. And sponsorship and advertising is how media companies stay alive as well. So it was interestingly to me that, as I sort of started to progress into this new chapter of my career, I realized a lot of the same skills, customer set experiences, and sort of hierarchy or structure of a media company was not that dissimilar to what we're doing. And at the end, it all boils down to building great experiences for our fans and for our customers.
As a minor league owner, what type of relationship do you have with the Indians? I mean, for instance, they can take your players at any time if they need to call them up. But as an owner, do you talk to them quite often about different issues or the type of things you want to do down here in Akron? I mean, how does that work?
Great question. So all of us here at the Rubberducks are huge baseball fans. I mean, you don't get into a business like this without loving the game and what's going on. But what's so interesting is that, our expertise really isn't on what happens in between the lines. The Indians have a business, a whole player, personnel department, a player development department that scouts and analyzes and drafts and builds and develops, talent, obviously, on its way to the major league club. So, we're honored to have the Indians as our major league affiliate. We're in a player development agreement with them, which I, think will extend for many, many, many years to come. We're proud to have them. We wouldn't want any other minor league team sending its players through Akron on the way up to the major leagues, up 77. But our relationship is a great one. We just renewed that player development agreement last year. I have frequent conversations with, executives at the Indians. Our staff is working very closely with them as it relates to issues with players or the roster or, equipment or their needs, hotel. We are responsible for the travel and lodging for our players on the road, so things related to the bus or the hotel or their well-being, their meals, those things, those are all covered by our staff. And, decisions relative to who plays, who pitches, who's on the roster, even the coaches, even the trainers are decisions made by the Indians. And so, we really focus in on what our core competency is, and they focus in on theirs, and it's a wonderful relationship. And when it works well, it produces great results for them. They've had great success with player development moving through, the Akron area. Players like Danny Salazar, who was our opening day starter last year, and then, of course, pitching for the Indians in the playoffs last year. Who knew that literally last April, 12 months ago almost, Danny Salazar would pitch opening day here at Canal Park for the Akron Arrows at that point, and 6-7 months would be on the hill up at Progressive Field. So, we do our job, but from a baseball standpoint, that's to support the Indians with their players, and they do a great job of having some fun and realizing this is minor league baseball and it's all about affordable family fun.
You mentioned your dad before as the president of the Phoenix Suns. Did he give you any advice about how to run an organization?
Yeah, I think a lot of what I learned from my father, I learned from watching him over the years. As I was growing up, my father's my best friend. He's also my mentor, somebody that, a couple days don't go by where I'll pick up the phone and ask his advice on something. Not always relative to the team or what we have going on here, but just life in general or the schedule. With him being on the West Coast, it's not, crazy to hear my cell phone buzz at, 2 or 3 in the morning as they wrap up a game on the West Coast. And, I'll be watching Phoenix Suns games from here in Akron or, wherever I am, and we connect, almost every couple of days. It was particularly helpful, I will say, having his aid and pro bono legal counsel as I was drafting our lease with the city of Akron. Of course, we had great local lawyers working on it here in Northeast Ohio, but my father was involved in doing the original lease for the Orioles at Oriole Park at Camden Yards and with the Redskins at their stadium at FedEx Field. So it was certainly nice to be able to say, hey, would you mind giving this a read through and helping us? So, but he's amazing and an important part of how I got into this, and and more importantly, a great father.
Yeah, I wish I had a pro bono lawyer in my family.
Yeah, that's right.
And not to leave your mom out, because I read how your mom gave you a sense of community, and also with your college background at Wheaton. What type of community things would you like to do within Akron?
I think it's more than just the baseball team. I try to be involved here as much as I possibly can. I was honored to be asked to sit on the Boys and Girls Club board, which I try and be active in, the Jewish Community Center here in Akron. Just joined the board of the Chamber here in Akron and a couple of other organizations in town. Personally, I want to try and be involved and give back as much as I possibly can. We're in the business here of giving people a place to come for 71 nights a year and relax and kick back with their friends and family and have fun, of course, at an affordable price. The community is our customer base, and it's also where I live. So, it's really important for me to make sure that I'm active and our organization is active. Periodically we close our offices down on a, Friday afternoon and go into the community and get involved in a, community, series of community projects. We work with Habitat for Humanity. We raised money last year and we're on our way to building a house into the community, thanks to our fans and their support through one of our charitable programs. So we're going to continue to give back. We, we're regularly in the hospitals and in the schools and in events throughout the community. And it's just an important part of what a minor league baseball team is, frankly, what any professional organization is. You can't just sit and expect to receive. We want to be able to give and realize how important that is in terms of our community and a community like Akron, which really welcomes, people giving back and stepping up.
I do have one non-baseball question for you when it comes to newspapers and journalism. Since you work for the Washington Post, what do you think the future of newspapers will be?
I'm a huge newspaper fan, obviously. I mean, not just because I, worked at one and a great one for 13 years. I'm still very much tied to the Post. I still advise them from time to time. I'm still, a shareholder there. So I still care very much about the future of the Post and other newspapers. What I'd say, honestly, is it's a really tough time for print journalism. Newspapers, like any other media company, have got to find a way to evolve and adapt in order to survive. Investment in digital and making the choices to really look at your business model different is essential. And in my time when I was there, I think we tried to pivot as a company that, was a newspaper first and foremost and also had some great digital assets to a digital company that also produced a newspaper. And those two delineations are really quite different because they drive how you make your business decisions and where you invest and where you cut. These companies have been, and not just the Post, the New York Times, Boston Globe, even here in Akron with the Beacon Journal or up in Cleveland with the Plain Dealer, these companies have been built to produce print newspapers, to reach households in their market for 365 days a year through any kind of weather condition. And the needs of people in terms of how they're getting their news has changed. So there's an evolution, there's a pivot that certainly needs to take place. In some markets, it's happening faster than others. It's hard sometimes to watch what happens when a market decides to stop distribution certain days of the week or make choices that are going to leave newspaper readers without that beloved portable great print copy that they can take anywhere they want to go with them. Digital really doesn't replace that, and that comes from somebody who really led that kind of a charge. And, these phones and tablets are great for a lot of things, but they don't replace the physical experience of, sitting there at the breakfast table with your cup of coffee and, reading the morning pages or sports page or even the comics. So I'm rooting for them hard. They're good people. In the case of the Post, we're really fortunate to have a investor like Jeff Bezos take over and buy the Post at a really critical time in its life. And, we're fortunate to have some runway in terms of investment from his vantage point at that paper. But it'll be interesting to watch. I will say, just to close out the question, that, I get asked a lot in terms of newspaper consumption. And as I, walked into rooms over the last few years in the Washington area and asked for a show of hands of how many people read a newspaper or read the Washington Post on a daily basis, I just get a couple of hands in a room, particularly on a college campus or, you go into a high school, you'll be lucky if you get anybody raising their hand. So the world has changed. The media business needs to accept that, and to survive, they're going to need to adapt. And there have been businesses that have and businesses that haven't. And I think truth will be told over time how they have the ability to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I love newspapers and digital just the same, but I think it's going to have to change because so many kids do not read newspapers as much as they just used to. So I hope there's a solution because there's some great papers around here. You recently opened a restaurant. Have you opened a restaurant or will be opening a restaurant?
March 22nd, we opened the Game Bar and Grill, our new restaurant here at the ballpark, open year-round.
I like the fact that you said you want to have people eat Sunday brunch downtown, which is fantastic. Is economic development part of your plan, too, as far as like maybe cultivating more businesses for the downtown area, or is it just kind of like this is just an extension of the Rubberducks?
No, I mean, this is all about investing in downtown Akron. We're really lucky where our ballpark is. I mean, I think people forget that Mayor Pasquale took a huge risk and pushed taxpayers many years ago, 17 years ago, to build Canal Park downtown in Akron. And, although I wasn't here then, I hear stories about what Main Street and what downtown Akron was really like in those days. And you can think already about the development of what's happened downtown around the ballpark with restaurants and the hospital systems and how that has all sort of continued to grow and develop. Lock 3, right, with all that's happened down here, and now the university housing, which stands down to Main Street with the dorms that are being built on Exchange. So that's going to continue to develop, and we see our role is to continue to invest deeply in that. Last week we announced we'd be spending $5.6 million on our ballpark as a cultivation or as a statement about our belief in our investment in Akron. Of course, last year we signed a 30-year lease with the city. That was a commitment that we're making to baseball and minor league baseball here in downtown Akron. A restaurant was sort of it's an interesting evolution. There was a restaurant, of course, in the ballpark years ago. Menchie's was here, and then more recently Wing Warehouse. The space that we're opening up is actually below that. It's in a space with seating in our right field area, which will have a tiki terrace, and then Main Street seating eventually. And so we're building it out of a new space, a space that was below where the old restaurant used to be, and then where the old restaurant used to be on that second level, we'll be building the Duck Club, which will be a 150-person private event space that will be open year-round, climate-controlled on game days and non-game days alike for private events, breakfast, business meetings, lunches, even down to weddings and bar mitzvahs. So, we hope to have a number of events in that space, and the restaurant is just a entry into what I would say is a tangential business for us. We're about providing great food, great service at an affordable price, and now you won't have to wait for a Akron Rubberducks team to be able to experience that. You could come down any day, start off with breakfast, lunch, dinner, and of course brunch on the weekends, as you mentioned, and that's just an important evolution of our business.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea because I worked with the mayor doing social media marketing for Lock 3 a few years ago, and I would see all these people here. It's like, wow, I wish there was a restaurant. There's nice restaurants down there, but something like what you're talking about, almost like for family, maybe cost effective. I think it's just a great place. It's a great thing to have down there.
Well, thank you. We think so too. We think it's needed. In the absence of breakfast, we have some great restaurants downtown, and not only are they partners of ours, we work with them, I eat at them. They each have a niche, and when we set out to do this, we said, look, what do we want to create? And we said, look, what if Akron had a great grill, a great bar, a great place to come down for one of the 3 meals every day, where you could bring your family or come for a business meeting to meet with colleagues, or just hang out with friends and have a beer at the end of the night and feel really good about it. This is going to have a sports bar component to it, but also a grill, a place where you can come and eat, and it's clean, great food, and of course what you can measure our business on ultimately, which is an affordable price. So we think this solves a lot of problems. We think this really fit the niche in downtown Akron, and we're really, really excited to open it up. The Game Bar and Grill opens up on March 22nd, and of course opening day for us is on April 10th.
Well, Kim Babby, thank you for the conversation. Tell us what the fans can expect from the Akron Rubberducks this year.
Well, we have a lot to look forward to. Of course, our promotional schedule will come out this week. The latest on our team can always be followed at www.akronrubberducks.com. Follow us on Facebook. That is, probably the best way to stay in touch with the team. Just go to facebook.com/Akron Rubberducks. And the other thing I would say, which is going to be really interesting, is as we get closer to opening day with these new areas, go online to the web and look at the Tiki Terrace and the new restaurant, of course, the Duck Club, Duck Row, which is a great premium experience, again at an affordable price with swivel seats and waiter-waitress service just a few feet off of third base. These are really exciting venues within the venue of Canal Park, and we're trying to create lots of different experiences, even for kids and families, or to just people who are coming out with their buddies, coming out on a date, or just looking forward to escaping life and having some fun for a few hours. This is the place to do it. Of course, free parking after 6 o'clock in downtown Akron, and we're ready to go here. It's hard to believe 8 weeks till baseball.
And finally, what are some of your favorite apps? Because you're a man on the go. You're working all day. What apps do you use on your phone?
Oh, it depends. It's a great question. Depends on where I'm going and what I'm doing. First, of course, would be our Akron Rubberducks app, which is in the App Store. I have to mention that. If I'm traveling, I love Uber. I love Flight Track. I spend a lot of time on the road, so love traveling. I'm a foodie, as I mentioned earlier. I wouldn't open a restaurant if I didn't love great food. So I'm regularly on Yelp looking at what's around me. I think there's a lot of great utilities. There's a lot of great tools out there that allow you to sort of connect with people. We're really starting to play with a new Facebook app called Paper. That's something that I'd encourage people to check out, which is a sort of an evolutionary app for them, which takes your news feed and changes it. And the final one that I'd say that I'm on a couple of times a day is a new app, believe it or not, from my former company, the Washington Post, called Trove, Trove. It's a news app which compiles all of your news sources, but does so by basically collating your news feed from Facebook, from Twitter, your preferences, different things that you're interested in, and pulling them together in a way that's organized in a way and curating them. For example, I'm a big Washington Redskins fan, so it's going to push Washington Redskins news right to the top of my news feed when I open up Trove. And that's a free app. It's a lot of fun. It was just released by the Post a few weeks ago, and we're having a lot of fun with that one as well. So those are just a few of my favorites, although I tend to get bogged down in email like most people. So, it's good. And recently I've been watching the weather a lot as we're getting closer to baseball season. It's fun to track the future forecast for sure.
Yeah. What happened to the Redskins this year? I mean, that was a disaster.
Yeah, thanks for rubbing it in, right?
Well, I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, so I can't really say much.
Yeah, we both have had our challenges, I suppose. I mean, it's been a tough couple of decades for the Redskins. I mean, we won a Super Bowl when I was in first grade, and from what I remember, I figured every season was going to be like that. And then, of course, the Redskins made the playoffs for several years and had great success in the early 90s. But that ended quickly, and we really haven't seen sustainable success since that time. So look, we're upbeat. We think Coach Gruden's going to bring a lot to Washington next year, and as a fan, it's a great escape and a great opportunity for me to hang out with my friends and family in the Washington area. I try and get back to as many home games as possible.
So maybe we'll see a Browns-Redskins Super Bowl one day.
Well, yeah, we'll be waiting a long time for that, I'm afraid. So
I know, but you can hope.
We will.
Well, Ken, yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Ken.
Thanks so much for having me, and hope to see you guys all out at the ballpark this year.
I want to thank Cam Babby for being a great guest on The Digital Life. You can follow the team on Twitter at Akron Rubberduck. That's Akron Rubberduck. Before I go, I have a Twitter question for you. Tweet me at Kevin Lockett and tell me which sports team does a great job when it comes to social media. It could be a major league team or a minor league one, but tell me which team or teams gets it when it comes to digital media. All right, everybody. It's The Digital Life. I'm Kevin Lockett, and I'm out.
The Digital Life with Kevin Lockett.